Alright, so today I'm going to look at my Black Widow build, and before I continue, because I want to remember to say this at the beginning this time, I am releasing these build videos for the last of my characters that I have not done yet. I am releasing this before Spider-Man drops on November 30th, if anybody happens to watch this in the future. So this is pre-patch, I believe, 2.2 it is. This is pre-power level increase, so I just wanted to get these out there so I can refine them after the power level increase and make them even better. So this will be a high heroic Black Widow build. So her build is honestly really good as well. Her Widow's Bite damage is very high with the high heroic, and then also even when you run out of the Widow's Bite usages, the amount of damage she does in her ultimate state, which I, truth be told, always forget what it is, power surge, of course, yeah. So the amount of damage she does normally in the power surge state just with her staff is also crazy. Like, she can crit for like 30 to 60,000. It's a lot. It's similar to how Black Panther can be in Boss Chosen, and then like how Cap can be in Brooklyn Brawler and stuff like that. So it can get really high. So we'll take a look at her melee piece. And well, let me take a look at the stats first. So obviously, as with every single high heroic type build, you're going to want to go for Valor and Proficiency. So the Valor stat is what affects the heroic stat the most. That's what's going to bring it up the most. But the Proficiency is going to give you a better critical chance and better perk chance. And you want as good a critical chance as possible, because when you output the critical damage, that is what's going to, output the most damage the most, especially towards bosses. And the high heroic builds are mainly for those people who want to see how fast they can just decimate a boss, because you can really drain bosses with these types of builds. So we'll take a look at this melee piece first. So a lot of these pieces you will find as well we're not in it for the perks. Like I said before, we're just in it to see if we can get the high Valor and high Proficiency stats on them. So I think, in my opinion, this is one of those pieces. It has a good Valor, has a high Valor and a good Proficiency on it, so that brings it up a good amount. The 200% increased willpower regeneration when Shadow Ops is active is actually a pretty good skill, but it's not the main reason why I have this piece. The main reason I have this piece is for the high Valor and high Proficiency stats on it. So now if we take a look at the ranged piece, so we got 6.9 chance hitting an enemy with a ranged critical attack grants a damage buff. Honestly, I wasn't even in this piece for that perk, but because it's also a very low chance, but at the same token, that's just another chance of getting a damage buff. So if you are going to go for a perk when doing this type of build, you always want to make sure you have at least one type of perk that gives you a damage buff and gives you it easy, which is obviously the taking damage for the granted damage buff on the defensive piece, which I'll get to in a sec. But obviously this extra damage buff perk is not bad whatsoever. It just helps with the chance. And then ranged attack with pistol shot deals particle damage. Not too bad right there. And then the last perk is just neither here nor there. The main thing with this is the high Valor and the high Proficiency stat. And now with the defensive piece, which is the main perk that you want to make sure to have, in my opinion, is the chance taking damage grants a damage buff. So this is obviously the damage buff pre-Spider-Man release, pre-patch 2.2. is the meta, just period, and the taking damage grants a damage buff is the best way to get a damage buff, in my opinion. Honestly, taking damage grants a damage buff on defensive pieces, they're not hard to find per se, but what is hard to find for them is trying to find a defensive piece with taking damage grants a damage buff that has the specific type of stats you're going for the build you're going for. That's, in my opinion, the hardest part. So this one has a decent amount of Valor, which is why I have it, to help with the heroic still. And then it has a 16.3% chance taking damage grants a damage buff, which is one of the best perks in the game currently, which is what you want to look out for. So there's the defensive piece, and then with the heroic piece, so I will say as well briefly, so I actually have this piece right here, which as you can see brings her heroic up by a decent amount, like 8%, especially when you get to the higher numbers. That's a lot. It increases it by a lot. However, I do have a perk that if you can look out for with a good Valor stat on this is what you want to go for. So it's actually two perks. So the first one is the guaranteed chance of landing a critical hit when attacking an enemy from behind while invisible. So, I mean, that's fantastic. You guaranteed crits while invisible. And then 15% increased damage when you are invisible. So, I mean, it just adds up. And I did, just to make sure, even though this does increase it by 8%, I damage tested these with Widow's Bite, and I compared and contrast, and this piece does do more damage in the long run. It does more damage than a piece that increases my heroic by 8%, which is just, it's crazy to think about. So if you're able to get this type of piece, I believe this is her hero set, which you could get an exotic version of in the priority mission, but doing these priority mission weekly for the heroic set pieces with everybody, it's a hassle sometimes because you can only do it once a week, period. You can't do it once a week with every hero. So it's like you have to take what you can get. So it's hard to farm entire hero sets with everybody. But that's the heroic piece. So if you can look out for this specific type of piece with the 15% increased damage when invisibility is active, and then the guaranteed crit when attacking from behind while invisible, that's what you want to look out for, and preferably with the high valor and high proficiency on it. And then obviously for the minor ISOs with everybody, no matter what build you're going for, at least in my personal opinion, you want to get the minor ISO that has the singular stat towards whatever you're looking for. So I have 2 minor epic ISOs that have nothing but valor on it. So that's what's going to increase it the most. And as you can see here, here's what the might ones look like, and then here's what the precision ones look like. So there's a type for every single stat, but for high heroic, you want to go for the singular valor, and it's not a bad thing at all if you have the rare versions. It's only going to mean that you can't get to a power level of 150, but you can get a guaranteed epic version at least once a week from the shop, from the Inhuman or Shield faction vendors. I've found that I think the Inhuman one gives I can buy it from them weekly every Sunday reset. So I don't know if it's the same for everyone or if it's different, but I can get it once a week every Sunday for my Inhuman one, I believe. But check both the Inhuman and Shield faction vendors daily. They'll have a epic minor every single day, whether it's might, precision, resilience, intensity, whatever. It'll have 1 epic guaranteed every single day. You just gotta check to make sure it's the one you want. So you want 2 epic valor ISOs, and then you want to passively have the Tactagon equipped because it gives a heroic and melee boost, as you can see. But when you're like actually fighting the boss, you definitely want to switch to the Sacred Norn Stone of Lethal Will, and you want to actually activate its effect. And then you want to switch back to the Tactagon to get that extra boost, just to get that extra little bit of damage in. So you want to activate the effect of the Nornstone and then switch to the Tactagon to get that boost in. But I mean, in general, that about wraps up the Black Widow build. Like I said, her Widow's Bite damage in this is crazy. Like, it's 250 to 300,000 per Widow Bite. So you do 3 of those back to back, you're doing 900,000 plus damage. And then you'll still have the damage buff in the Nornstone active, and then you go ahead and pop Power Surge, and her staff damage in Power Surge is still going to be critting averagely for like 30 to 50,000. So some of these heroic builds can get really insane. So if you enjoyed this build or this video, feel free to like and subscribe for future Marvel content, and I will leave you with some gameplay of this build in action, and I appreciate you for watching the video.